This is Truthful Manipulation, where truth is the truth and reality is made real and clear to understand. I'm Dave Kelsey, and I'm here today with my co-host, H. Daniel Mujahid. On this week's episode of Truthful Manipulation, we thought we would take you in just a little different direction than what we've done before. And we're going to make a plea this week. And we're going to make a plea to the 4 former presidents of the United States. And the plea that we're going to make to the 4 former presidents of the United States is, can you guys please band together? Forget your political differences. Forget that you were a Republican and forget that you were a Democrat. And come together and band together as Americans to put an end to the criminal enterprise that is Washington, D.C. right now. So with that, we're going to ask for a poll this week of all of our listeners. And that poll is, if you think that it would be a good idea for the former living presidents to join together as Americans to put an end to the tyranny that we see coming out of Washington, we'd like you to get a hold of us at truthfulmanipulation@gmail.com and vote yes or no. Vote yes or no on whether you think that it would be a good idea for the 4 former presidents to join together. And with that, we're going to go into just a little bit of a history lesson for those that have forgot about this, because I believe that there's a lot of people in the U.S. that do not study history and they don't understand how history always repeats itself. So we're going to take you back to 1938. In 1938, Germany annexed Austria. They didn't invade it militarily, but they threatened invasion and demanded political concessions from their leader. That was the beginning of the Nazi regime that we ended up going into World War II. And doesn't this sound a little bit familiar with what we're hearing coming out of Washington, D.C. today? We just walked into a sovereign nation that wasn't doing anything to the U.S., but we said that their leader was corrupt, and because we said he was corrupt, and because there were arrest warrants for him in our country, which he wasn't in, we decided it'd be a good idea to go in there and invade a sovereign nation, kidnap their leader, bring him back to the U.S., and then our fearless leader, I should say Dementia Don, decides we're going to keep their resources. Is that what America is today? Have we turned into the Putins of the world where we think that everybody's territory is ours? And then I heard in the last couple of days that it was, well, the Cubans better watch out or we're going to walk in there and take them. And I'm going to draw up plans to take over Greenland. And then this morning, I just heard him say he was going to do something in Iraq. What the hell is going on? How is any of this policy America first? Do you feel as Americans that you're better off under this administration? And that's why we're calling on the 4 ex presidents, the 4 living ex-presidents, to band together and please show some leadership. We need you guys to show presidential leadership because we're not seeing that out of the most high office in our country right now. Daniel?
Those of us who live and breathe and call ourselves Americans, we just witnessed our presider explain that Venezuela is now ran by the 3 men that were standing behind him in a press conference. Now, the Secretary of State, Rubio, he said, well, that responsibility is not really mine. It belongs to the Secretary of Defense, who then said, well, it's not really my authority. It's homeland issues, and we're looking at making sure that we are doing what we need to get done there. And then they said, well, maybe it's the president's responsibility, who said it was theirs. So now, if you have that in your leadership team and it doesn't concern you, then that means that you probably are really not really living in reality. And we need you to come into the reality of what we are facing. This is a takeover of a country with no one claiming really leadership responsibility, but posing as leaders, depending on how the water, which way the wind blows. In America, the invite that Dave is asking from our 4 presidents still living is to not be complicit, not to let party divide the effort, to keep in mind that we have one Constitution and we are Americans. We may identify our ethnicity in that identification, but we are Americans. And we are being called now by creation itself to do the right thing. Do not be complicit. Do not consider that it is not your issue. It is not your problem. Do not think that you have to figure out how you can make money doing it. Do not try to figure out how it is that you can just save your family and not be concerned about the person next door or your neighbor down the street or the people you work with or the people you pray with or the people you play with or the people that you go and dine with who fix your food or the people who clean your streets or the people who paint your houses.
Daniel,
or the people
this
who
comes down.
yes.
This comes down to something that we've never seen in U.S. history before. We've got a leader who fancies himself as some type of mafia don, except for in this time we would have to call it dementia don, in the band of misfits. And that's why we're calling on the former living presidents of the U.S. to stand up, put your party differences aside, and band together as American constitutionalists, because we know that all 4 of you actually stood for the Constitution of the U.S. And when we see something going on where everything that comes out of the White House these days is unconstitutional and illegal, we used to be a country of laws, and now those laws they apply to thee, but they don't apply to me. And that's not a principle for lasting prosperity. Everybody has to be subjected to the same laws. And when you put a criminal in charge, what the hell did you guys think was going to happen?
Now that's a good point, Dave. Now, if you have 2 or 3 cases where you're ruled, your actions are considered to be illegal, or you've been considered to be criminal, that's something that, that's human. But if you have been identified in the courts of law over 213 times as having done something illegal, wrong, or criminal, that is a problem that the people must respond to. Obviously, we would prefer to rely upon our Supreme Court. We would prefer to rely upon our
you can hold on.
representatives.
You can bag that
We
shit,
would
Daniel.
prefer.
Oh,
Let
hold
me
on.
finish, Dave. Huh?
You can forget that because these guys all lost whatever balls they had ages ago. They're all complicit. They all need to be removed from office. Every single one of them needs to be replaced for somebody that will sign on to something that says, I will uphold the Constitution of the United States. And when
I think it starts. I agree with you that it makes us feel as Americans in our heart and soul. It makes us feel like we should remove all. But I think what you're getting at is important. More importantly, is that we need the ones who can step up and be responsible to do so. We know they exist. We hear them at times, but this is the time now where we must be united in this effort. We must have a sense of urgency to correct and forbid the evil that we are seeing and witnessing daily. We've seen it in Minnesota. We've
Daniel,
seen it in
evil,
Portland.
talk about evil. Now we've got armed thugs with military grade armament on the U.S. streets, not rounding up immigrants. They're killing American citizens in broad daylight on video, and then freaking turning around and lying about it to everybody. They even came out and said, the video you just saw, you didn't really see what you just saw. Now, how is that when there's videotape that shows that this guy committed a murder of a U.S. citizen that was trying to flee for their life? How do you justify that? You can't, because he's running a criminal operation. He always fancied himself a mobster, and now he has the ability to use the U.S. government to become one.
Yes, and America, if you're listening, if you're reading our words that we will be posting in the Instagram and on LinkedIn and TikTok, etc., if you read it one time, remember this. If you don't get anything else, remember that the presider of the United States has now lodged a war, and that war is not against Iraq. It is not against Vietnam. It is not against Venezuela. It is not against Russia or Ukraine or China or North Korea.
It's against
that war
the U.S.
is against
people.
America.
That's right.
It's against the United States of America. And we might as well face it.
Well, we better face it, because the wars that he's attempting to do outside of the U.S. are just a distraction to keep him away from the real facts. The real facts of the matter is he's in the Epstein files. The reason he hasn't returned those or released those is because he knows when that happens, he's finished, because him and Epstein ran around as buddies for years, and we all know what Trump's history was when it came to young women. He thought that he could grab them by their blank if he felt he wanted to, and that's how he's operated the whole time. And now he's operating the same way in office today that he did then, except for now he thinks he can grab the U.S. by its and do whatever he wants to it, because he can run a criminal enterprise, because the criminals in the Supreme Court said that he was above the law. And unless we can rein that back in and bring him back in and hold him accountable, I heard him say the other day, in fact, he sent out a fundraising thing going, if we don't raise this much money by tonight, they're going to put people in power, they're going to impeach impeach me and try me. The reason that they're going to impeach you and try you is because everything that you're doing right now is illegal, against the Constitution, and against the American way of life. You sent armed troops into U.S. citizens. You're now killing U.S. citizens on American soil, and you think you can get away with it with impunity. Well, I'm telling you what, Daniel, we've talked about karma in the past, and I do believe that karma is going to come back and it's going to bite him and everybody that's in this administration so hard. But in the meantime, we invite the four former presidents to show some leadership. Band together, show some leadership. So show some restraint. Show some balls. I guess that's what I have to say, because nobody's showing any of that.
And I think that we have representatives that, if they hear us, they will respond, because this invite is not coming from Dave and Daniel. This invite is coming from higher power that has made it and inspired it upon our hearts to speak out, to reach out, to look out, to act, but act with intelligence, not vengeance, not anger, not with violence, but to act in the way that the American spirit calls for. And that means you and it means me. This is a U train. We must do this together. We must save ourselves. Now, we can sit on our hands and couches and wait for something to come out of the sky or the ground or the water or the trees, but it's going to be smart and human if we realize that we can do something ourselves. And as we refer to our friend that used to emphasize it, the great Black Eagle Joe Madison, what are you going to do about this invite? We call out to our former presidents, Obama, Clinton, Biden, and Bush.
Daniel, I've got an idea of what we need to do, or what they should do, or this is an idea for them to run over.
Consider. Uh-huh.
What do you think if at one time you had 1 million man march on Washington, D.C.? Right now, we have marches going on all around the U.S. that are amounting to millions of people marching against this. But my idea would be, let's get those 4 former U.S. presidents to band together, and you guys lead the march on Washington, D.C. And let's not march there with 1 million people. Let's march there with 10, 20 million people, and let this government understand that it is of the people and for the people, and not for the government. They forgot. The government is not there for them. It's there for us.
Right. I would agree that if the honorable minister Farrakhan, if he was able to get 1 million people to go there, we should be able to get easily 20 million people. I would agree with that thinking.
Well, you need, hold on. You need 20 million people to march on Washington. You need another 20 million to march on Mar-a-Lago, and you need another 20 million to march on another golf club that he's got in New Jersey. And the reason that you need that is because you need to make sure that he has nowhere that he can escape to. He needs to understand that the wrath of the American people will come down on him at some time, whether it be today, whether it be tomorrow, or whether it be in the afterlife, which I think he's getting closer to all the time.
And I don't think that Americans America, I don't think we need to wait to make our voices known in November. We can do that too, but let November take care of itself. What can we do? Like we call this the U train. What is it that you can do in January, in February, in March? That is the positioning that we need. And I agree with Dave in our invite for our four former presidents to demonstrate the leadership that is required. After all, this is America. We've done it before. This is what we do. And there is no time like now.
You can't
Dave?
stop the will of the American people when we band together. We saw this happen when we were attacked on 9/11. The American people banded together to show the world that we weren't going to take tyranny from others. Now that we've become the tyrants, it's time for the American people to band together and prove that we will march against tyranny. We will speak up against injustice, and we will invite our four former living presidents to band together and help us to form a government that actually is once again for the people and by the people, and not for the criminals and by the criminals. Don't forget our poll this week. If you believe that it'd be a good idea for the four presidents to band together, vote yes. If you don't think that that would be a good idea, vote no. You can do that at Truthful Manipulation at gmail.com. Please get a hold of us with ideas that you think could happen to try to move this cause along. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe at truthfulmanipulation.com and pass this along to all of your friends. This is a message that America needs to hear today. America, we're calling on you to make America great again. Look for us on Instagram. Look for us on LinkedIn. Thank you very much for listening this week, America.